Okay, Michael. So, of course, today we are reviewing Borat's subsequent movie film today. So I thought, what better way to start off the opening to this review by singing a classic Borat song, probably the last time we're going to be able to sing this song, which is, of course, Throw the Jew Down the Well.
Yes.
I thought we could sing it together as a nice start to the to the review. So, are you ready?
Yes. It'll be interesting to see how well this syncs up.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
In my country. Oh, sorry. I thought we were doing the verses. This is already off to a bad start. Okay, we're just doing the chorus.
Yes, just the chorus. Yes.
3, 2, 1. Throw the Jew down the well.
How could you say that, Michael?
Oh,
Jesus
you
Christ.
got me. Oh man, I can't believe that I fell for your little scheme of making me say that thing. If only I had a recording of the proper context.
Oh no! Damn it! God damn it! No, the thing is, you didn't sing it at first. I was like, oh, he's doing, because I was like, he's not going to sing it until I sing it.
No, yeah. Well, to be honest, no, I actually trusted you.
Oh, wow.
For that, I feel like a fool.
Sorry about that. Anyway, yeah, that's a good start. Let's get into the actual review then.
Hello and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films that have come out in the near and distant past. We give them a couple of watches and evaluate them beyond first impressions. I'm your host Michael, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Luke. And this week we are celebrating the 1 week anniversary of our review of Borat, the first one, by looking at Borat, the second one. So Luke, why don't you tell us, sorry, let's say it properly, Borat subsequent movie film. So Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about Borat subsequent movie film?
Sure thing, Michael. So, Jesus Christ. Borat subsequent movie film, delivery of prestigious bribe to American regime for make benefit once glorious nation of Kazakhstan, or simply Borat subsequent movie film, or Borat 2, is a 2020 mockumentary comedy film directed by Jason Woliner in his feature directorial debut, and starring Sacha Baron Cohen, of course, as Borat, the sequel to the first Borat, Make Glorious Benefit Nation of Kazakhstan, some shit like that. Yes, Michael, of course, last week we did the first Borat because of its 15-year anniversary, the highest grossing mockumentary and indeed documentary, if you want to count it as that, of all time. And so for this week I was like, well, you know what, the second Borat came out next year. I doubt there's ever going to be another Borat. So, you know, let's review it. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of political stuff going on in this movie. This, of course, came out last year. I need to get onto that, actually, in a bit. But firstly, the movie stars Sacha Baron Cohen, Rudy Giuliani, and Maria Bakalova. I like how they actually put Rudy Giuliani in the starring. That's good.
Because he was in on it, Luke.
He was in on it. The film was released on October the 23rd, 2020, just before the 2020 US presidential election. Yeah, I wonder if that was that was more than a coincidence. The movie's budget, Michael. How much did this cost? That's what.
Oh, okay. So the first one was wasn't the first one? I feel like I've already forgotten this, but I feel like the first one was 18 million. Mm-hmm. Logic dictates that this would be more expensive, just because why wouldn't it be? So I'm going to go for this one cost 32 million.
It's actually less.
Oh, wow.
More, because it's 10 to 20.
Okay.
That's the thing. Yeah, I looked at the budget. I was like, what the fuck? What do you mean 10 to 20? That's like quite a massive gap there.
Yeah, it is. That's in terms of percentage, like 100% difference.
Yeah, like there's a massive difference between 10 and 20 million in the context of if your budget's 20 million, you know, or your budget's 10 million, there's a lot of leeway there. It's
like if somebody said like a film costs between $500 million and $1 billion. Yeah, that matters.
Yeah, exactly. So how much did this make, Michael? How much did this rake in?
Well, the last one made, if I remember correctly, like 260 million, I think.
Yes,
but that's completely pointless because this came out during the coronavirus.
They mentioned that in the movie, yeah.
Yes, they do mention that in the movie a little bit. It gets the odd mention. So with that said, I literally have no idea. I mean, did it even get like a proper release? I don't even know. So I don't know. Let's say it made 70 million.
It doesn't say, Michael.
I didn't think. Okay, yeah.
Well, you didn't think that because you didn't say that.
Well, I know, yeah. I mean, yeah, that should have been my guess. My guess should have been it doesn't say it.
Yeah, no, it doesn't say it because, of course, this was not released in movie theatres. Where was it released, Michael?
On Amazon Prime.
Yes, Amazon Prime is where it was released. And so, therefore, who knows how much Amazon made from that.
It was the second most racist thing on Amazon Prime after the Grand Tour.
Okay. Yes. Is the Grand on Amazon Prime?
Well, I remember when Jeremy Clarkson was like he was advertising Amazon Prime for a while because the Grand Tour was because Amazon Prime picked it up.
Okay, that makes sense. But anyway, so Borat subsequent movie film. Did you like this movie?
Yeah, I thought this film was in some ways, I don't want to say derivative, but let's say it was similar to the first film as you would expect a sequel to be. And in that sense, I liked it for similar reasons to why I liked the first film. I mean, I don't want to give too much of a spoiler away, but I'm not really sure if I liked it as much as the first film. Just because I thought it wasn't necessarily like bringing
don't spoil it. Just say.
Sorry, I don't want to spoil it too much. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I overall.
No, I'm saying it's not a spoiler. Like I'm saying,
know,
if you say it like 5 minutes into the review, people aren't going to go, well, you know what? I can't believe Michael said that. How could he spoil it?
No, yeah, you're all right. Sorry, yeah. I should just do my conclusions at the beginning, and
yeah, I mean, I have noticed sometimes you just say stuff in your conclusion that you didn't bring up in the whole review. I'm like, well, where the fuck did that come from?
You know what? Sometimes it's because I forget to bring it up. In fact, it's always because I forget to bring it up.
Okay, that's great. But anyway, did I like this movie? Did I like Borat's subsequent movie film? Of course, last week we reviewed Borat. I said I liked it a lot. I thought it was one of the funniest films I'd ever seen.
This one criticised your hero.
Yeah, I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. So yeah, if I don't like this movie as much, but that means it can still be a good movie. And I think it's okay. Maybe it's good. Maybe it's okay. But yeah, it certainly does not hit the heights of the first one. And we'll go into that, of course. But yeah, as you would probably expect, because I was thinking watching this, it's just not the same, man. Like, we've seen Borat do all this stuff again. Like, a lot of the shtick is the same, apart from there's a noticeable step up in a particular direction concerning Trump and politics, which the first movie did not go in that direction. Really didn't go in that direction at all in terms of making a political or taking a political stance, which this movie very much does. And that is and of course you've got the daughter. The daughter's in there, that freshens it up a bit. But overall, like, you do a lot of the things with the daughter, like a lot of the comedy is quite similar to what Borat was doing. It's a younger Borat who's female now. Overall, it does make sense that anyone, including myself, would not like it as much, just because part of the joy of the first one is like, I can't believe he's doing that. And you're watching it for the second time, and you're like, well, I can believe he's doing that because I've seen it happen already. So, that is the issue with this sequel. But I'm not saying it's a bad movie, obviously. But anyway, let us get into nitpicks and litpicks. How many do you have, Michael?
I have 0. I almost had 1.
Oh, okay. What was your almost one?
My almost one was when he said that the running of the Jew had been cancelled. And then I was like, oh, hold on a minute. Didn't they say at the end that the running of the Jew, they didn't do that anymore? But then I remembered that he said that was just specific to his village. So I was thinking, okay, I'm going to let him off on that one.
I see. That's good memory, that. Yeah, it's good. For me, I don't have anything similar to last week. You can't really nitpick this movie. Yeah. I think it's pretty impossible. I don't have any litpicks either, by the way. So, Borat's subsequent movie film. It is a 2020 mockumentary comedy, as we said before, directed by Jason Wolner, and Sacha Baron Cohen again plays the fictional Kazakh journalist and television personality Borat Sajayev, however you say it, and Maria Bakalova as his daughter. Do you remember the daughter's name, Michael?
Oh, Tutar.
Yeah, I've just in my notes, I've just listed her, or I've just named her as the daughter throughout. Yeah, because I couldn't remember her name. It's like, is it Tutor, something like that? Who is to be offered as a bride to then US Vice President?
Oh.
Yeah. Then US Vice President Mike Pence during the COVID-19 pandemic and the 2020 presidential election. It is a sequel to 2006's Borat, Cultural Learnings for America for Benefit Glorious Nation of Kazakhstan. So, although Baron Cohen had said in 2007 he had retired the Borat character, he was spotted in 2019 in the disguise and was seen filming in mid-2020, leading to speculation of a second Borat film. The project was officially announced in September 2020, with Amazon, of course, acquiring the distribution rights. And, of course, news of what happened. There was news that a second Borat movie was coming out before it was announced, I think because of what happened, of course, with Rudy Giuliani and those pictures went viral. Probably the day or the day after it was filmed. I remember that on Twitter. That was a great day. Yeah, with that screenshot. So of course this movie was very successful. It received 3 nominations at the 78th Golden Globes. Winning for Best Actor in a Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy for Baron Cohen, and Best Motion Picture. And at the 93rd Academy Awards, it was nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay and Best Supporting Actress for Bakalova. So yes, this was a movie that was very much liked in Hollywood, even though I don't think... The first movie was, again, bad. I didn't receive the amount of critical praise that this did. But yeah, there you go, Michael. So the concept... Well, we discussed this last week, didn't we? So it's just basically the same again, but again, we've got a clear political message this time. And, you know, we also, like I said, we have a daughter, Tutar, Borat's daughter. Yeah. So, yeah, you get some scenes that are scripted with the daughter, which replace the scenes that were scripted with his...
With the big fat man.
Yeah, Asmat. Yeah, that's what he was called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell you what, this time you should have had a hazmat.
That's good.
Because of the virus.
Yes, because of the virus, yes. There's no naked brawl this time with Borat and Maria.
Oh yeah, that would not be okay.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be okay. But yeah, this time that doesn't happen. But yeah, it's just the same. We went through the concept last week. As for the plot, well, we actually have a plot this time.
Yeah,
actually have
a lot more of one.
Yeah, a lot more of one. So Borat's country, of course, sends him from Kazakhstan to America like last time, but this time it is to give a gift to Mike Pence instead of filming a documentary. So that's the difference. And of course, throughout the movie, there is a storyline with his daughter, because his daughter, of course, comes in this box and replaces the monkey with him eventually, or Borat connecting with her again, like. You know, that's fine. Like, I remember, I'm going to reference this video a couple of times, but Lindsay Ellis said, you know, it was good to have a storyline in this movie, subsequent movie film, and there was an emotional core to this movie that the first one did not have.
Are you implying that his love for Pamela Anderson wasn't emotionally just driven?
Well, she was.
Fantastic.
She was. And but I also do agree with her, yes. But the thing is, I don't really care about any of that. Like, if there's more plot and there's an actual story connecting all these scenes, which is just a better, more cohesive story. The thin premise of the original, that Borat was...
it worked.
Yeah, filming a documentary and was going to meet Pamela Anderson... That was fine with me. That's all you needed. Like I said last week, like, it's the bare bones. It's very thin, but that's you don't need anything more. Like this, I guess it's fine, but it doesn't really add anything to the movie to me. Like you said, there's an emotional core. There's the storyline, which is even deeper. It's like I don't really care about that. I don't know. What did you think, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think one of the reasons why they needed a plot is because they couldn't. You know, and we'll get into this a bit more in a second. But obviously, it's a big conceptual difference. You couldn't just have him doing a straight documentary where he interviews people, because of course lots of people would recognize what was happening. So like, I think they had to have the plot simply because they needed to, it was one of the, you know, several ways that they tried to negotiate around the fact that people would recognize the Borat character. So one of the ways to do that is to have lots of scenes where it's not contingent upon people thinking that Borat is a real person. So yeah, I think they needed the plot so that they could actually have something in this film that would be entertaining. But it definitely does feel a departure from what made the series as good. And ultimately, I mean, the absurdism aspect, it can work, but I think the absurdism is more fun when there's people who aren't in on it. You know, when you've got these absurd plot points, but every single person is an actor who's reading lines off a script, it's not quite as funny. So yeah, I basically agree with you. It's not. I'm not totally down on it, but it's worse.
Yeah, like at the start and the end, obviously, you have the scenes with the Prime Minister or the President of Kazakhstan, and it's like obviously scripted, and it works for the plot, but obviously it's just not that funny because, you know, it's scripted. And throughout the movie, which I'll get into later, you have these scripted scenes with Borat and his daughter, which of course, you know, they're not. It's not improv. You know, it's like these are your lines, which is, of course, didn't happen in the first one. I guess you could have Asmat. It did happen sometimes, but you know, they were speaking, like Borat was speaking Hebrew. I don't know what Asmat was speaking, and so it was just like, those scenes were just like very small, apart from the scene where they, of course, wrestle each other naked.
Yes.
So, Michael, let's get into the details of the plot. What we're going to do is we're going to go through what happens in the movie and leave out the parts where Sacha Baron Cohen is exposing America, like he did in the first bit, and also moving on from that, his very
overt political message.
Yes, his overt political messaging, which of course takes place in this movie as well, which, like we said, didn't happen in the first Borat. And yeah, so we'll just go through the plot, but we'll leave those two aspects out and then talk about them after. So let's start right at the beginning, of course. After 14 years of forced labour, a gulag for the dishonour inflicted on his country in his previous adventure, Kazakh journalist Borat is released by his country's premier, Nursultan Nazarbayev, with a mission to deliver Kazakh Minister of Culture and Kazakhstan's most famous porn actor, Johnny the Monkey, to President Donald Trump in an attempt to redeem the nation. So, of course, this is the premise. Unable to get close to Trump after defecating in the landscaping of Trump International Hotel and Tower in the previous film, Borat opts to give the monkey to Vice President Mike Pence. So, here is the thing. You need a reason for Borat to go to America. And of course, it's revealed at the end his reason was just to spread coronavirus.
Yes.
But this, just on the face of it, like, this is a bad reason. Like, why couldn't Kazakhstan just send the monkey anyway? Why did they need Borat? Maybe they could have said that Trump or Pence were a fan of Borat because of the movie.
Yeah, that would work. Actually, that would have been clever.
Yeah, and Trump or Pence enjoyed Borat's interview with the feminists, for instance. They didn't get the joke and they laughed at it.
That would have been meta.
Yeah, exactly. But then what about the Trump Tower thing? You could ask. Well, they could have said like Trump didn't know it was his tower because he couldn't read. That was something that I thought of. Or make some joke like at the time that came up in the movie, he was choking or he choked on some McDonald's. He was eating, so we didn't see it because Trump loves fast food, or something to do with Pence. With a woman walked in the room who wasn't his wife, like easy.
He had to leave.
Yeah, so he had to leave, like for a minute, exactly. And so that's the thing. Like it's just like, well, you need to deliver this monkey, and why do you need Borat for that? So you need to have a reason as to why Borat is getting out of the gulag and going to America in the actual start. Of course, at the end, it's to spread corona, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, you need a better premise than that. And it was quite easy to do. You could have just said a couple of lines, and there you go, you're away. And it would have been, I think, could have been potentially quite funny. But anyway, yeah, what do you think of that, Mike?
No, yeah, I agree with you that not only that there was a problem with the initial premise, but also I think, that your little suggestions would have been better. I do think if you're going to have a film that's slightly more plot-centric, you do need the plot to work a little bit better. Obviously, these films do have an element of, like I say, absurdism to them, but there are some parts of the film where you are supposed to take it not necessarily seriously, but I guess just kind of engage with the logic of the plot. And there are some instances where the logic of the plot kind of works together quite well. Like, the fact that they tie in Borat taking a dump in front of the Trump Hotel with what happens in this film. Obviously, it's a very minor thing, but, that's kind of a little bit of reincorporation. Well done there. But basically...
Did you do a Borat impression?
That was kind of... it was sort of...
Well
I
done
realised as I was doing it, well done there. You did a good job making the film. Basically, overall, it's one of those things like... In a lot of... It kind of reminds me of when people talk about time travel, and they're just like in Terminator and stuff. It's just like, you just have the time travel. It doesn't necessarily make much sense, but it just sets up the film and then you go. And I guess you can kind of excuse that. But yeah, based on the fact that I think even what you were saying would have made more sense, you'd think that they could have come up with that. So yeah, a little disappointing. Not terrible, it doesn't really ruin the film or anything, but yeah.
Yeah, and President Nazarbayev wants, the strongman. He wants to get in the strongman club. And of course, you could have had sort of scenes of him, like, I don't know, trying to
working out,
strongman, working out or something. Yeah, again, just it feels like you could have done a bit more there, put a bit more effort, and it could have really been a good start. But anyway, the premise is out the way. Whatever, who cares? Borat's coming to America, and he's got a problem, Michael, because and there is this new wrinkle to this movie. People recognize Borat, so he needs disguises. And I was thinking, well, are they going to make this funny? And not really. They just have him dress up as random characters. And for example, when he goes to the debutante's ball, he doesn't dress as Borat. He dresses as some other person. And it's just well, he's in another disguise. It's almost like it's not Borat, because of course Sacha Baron Cohen is known for his disguises and dressing up. It's it's just kind of like another Sacha Baron Cohen thing. Yeah,
I get what you're saying. There is, it's kind of I was thinking about it. It's almost like a tension in the film where it's sort of the fact that Sacha Baron Cohen can obviously be people who aren't Borat. That was kind of the whole sort of impressive thing about Bruno, the fact that he was literally just a couple of years after Borat able to make this film and completely fool loads of people into thinking he was a different person because of just how good of a character actor he is, and how like he was able to completely emulate like a different character. And I think like a lot of people, if you've seen Borat and Bruno, and I don't know, maybe you haven't seen the film, but even if you've like seen the character, you can recognize that you could easily be talking to Bruno if you didn't know the context of the film and not think to yourself, oh, this is obviously just the same guy who plays Borat. Whereas in this film, you've kind of got the issue of like, one, Borat the character is not supposed to be a fantastic master character actor. So there's like a constraint in the fact that all of these characters just feel like kind of almost like parallel universe versions of Borat. It's like, oh, it's Borat, but he's wearing a cowboy hat and kind of doing a kind of bad American accent. And then there's the other thing, which is from the kind of enjoyment of the film perspective. It's like you're not watching other interesting characters, I guess is the problem. Like Bruno is kind of fun. I don't know, like I'm not going to get into it. Basically, it's an enjoyable film because it's a different character.
Yes.
And Borat's obviously a different character, and Ali G is a different character. But in this, it's just like characters who, like you say, is sort of just, they're not whole new characters. He's not doing completely new takes on characters. He's just Borat, but different enough that it's not really Borat. So it's kind of like, you got the fact it's not really Borat, and it's not really another character either. So it's just a guy.
Yeah.
Which isn't quite as interesting.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, when he goes to the debutante's ball, like, of course he needs to disguise himself so people aren't like, hey, it's Borat, we're getting punked here. But in the actual, movie world, does it make sense for Borat to wear a disguise there?
Yeah.
Does it? I mean, I don't think it doesn't, does it?
Because like basically, are you saying because it wouldn't really matter if people recognize him?
Yeah, because his point is he's trying to make his daughter, fancier. So he'd go there, and of course he needs to disguise himself so people don't know, because of course they naturally, or I guess you could say, well, he doesn't want him being known to be a distraction, so that's why he's disguising himself. But at the end of the day, obviously there's going to be cameras there, so people know, okay, there's going to be a scene where we get pranked here if it's Borat. But yeah, it's like he's just got to disguise himself now because otherwise people recognize him, and it's just they don't do anything with that really. And
well, also actually, sorry, just as another aside, in this film, there's not really anything like as much of an explanation for why there are cameras. Like I know because he's not a documentary.
Well, the Kazakhstan Premier Nazarbayev says you will document your trip. But again,
it's kind of a lazier excuse.
Yeah, it's like, you'll document your trip like that. Again, and maybe you could have a reason. Oh, we want to redo this time because the first one wasn't good. This time you will not
this one will
embarrass
show
your
that we're
country.
great.
Yeah, this time you make sure you don't embarrass your country, and that could maybe be a storyline throughout. Like Borat thinking, "Oh no, I embarrassed my country," and you could get some comedic hijinks going in one way or another there. With him not trying to do it, embarrassing his country, that being on his mind, etc. But yeah, they don't do that. Anyway, so this is another, I guess, thing, Michael, that happens in this movie, which is Borat making fun of new technology. And it makes sense.
What a boomer.
Yeah, I guess you could have done this last time, I guess, in 2006, but it makes more sense in 2020. Again, when this is one of the funniest points in the movie, and this is genuinely the case for me, with the non-political and non-exposing stuff. When
he watches porn.
Yeah, when he types in, was it spit roast cream pie into Google.
Yeah.
And that's good. And then he goes off to the bathroom to do his thing. That's good.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just found that really funny. Yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, that also falls into my favorite thing of like a prank where nobody's feelings get hurt. That's my favorite thing. So I'm such a nice guy. The person who was selling him the thing was just like, oh, look at him. He's having a good old time.
Yeah.
Watching that pornography.
Yeah. I think he's figured it out. Yeah. That's a good line. Anyway, and then of course we have the fax machine. Kind of making fun of all technology.
Sup.
This is what the Kazakhstan does with the fax machines, since they don't have phones, but they still talk like they have mobile phones. That was it. Yeah, that was quite funny.
Also, the fax machine, it was kind of reminiscent of the is the word a telegram when he's in the hotel in the first film, and there's the line about how his wife died. I guess the line like it's just like, you're saying my wife is dead, and the guy's like, that is what the telegram says. Yes. It was kind of like a similar thing of like but it was, in a way, it was kind of less funny, I guess. So maybe that's not a good example. But yeah, basically, you got the whole thing about you've got to do it or else you will be execute.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Borat, of course, buys a cell phone and goes to welcome Johnny, the porn star monkey, but finds that Tootar is in Johnny's shipping crate and has eaten him. And of course, Borat then faxes Nazarbayev, who tells him to find another way to satisfy Mike Pence, or he will be executed. And Borat, of course, then decides to give $2 to Pence after seeing Trump party with Jeffrey Epstein. And
Yes.
concluding that strong man like young girls. And that is a brilliant segue, because I remember seeing that news clip when Epstein died, of or when he got arrested, I think, of Trump partying with that girl. Or those young girls, I guess, with Epstein. And I think it's good that he looked up at the screen, because Borat could have immediately looked over to his daughter. It's like, I give him my daughter.
Yeah.
But that little bit when he looks up on TV and gets the idea, that is really good. I like that a lot.
No, yeah, definitely. I think it was that's the thing. There are a lot of examples in this film. As much as the plot does feel a bit unnecessary, the way you kind of get from one thing to the other is it's not bad. In the grand scheme of things.
I'm not saying it's bad. No,
exactly. Yeah.
It's not that, but that's a good moment. That's a nice fun moment. I like.
I mean, yeah, it's fun. I mean, this film, it does have a bit of a time capsule quality in the way. Actually, yeah, I'll say this now. It has a time capsule quality in the way that the first film didn't, because there's so many moments like the Jeffrey Epstein thing. Obviously, other things like the election and COVID. But yeah, Jeffrey Epstein thing's a good example. It's just that was the thing that was happening around this time as well. So it's incorporating all of that.
This feels like a very 2020 movie. We're reviewing it a year later, and it's
already out of date.
It already feels quite dated. It's specifically meant for the year 2020, but Borat doesn't. Yeah, it feels kind of timeless.
I mean, the original film feels more current.
Well, I wouldn't say current.
But
it's just this is very specific in this political era, because of course it deals with politics quite a bit. But anyway, Michael, of course, Borat of course gets the idea to give his daughter to Mike Pence, and we get some good daughter humor. I guess that's the best way to put it. He has this manual for his daughter.
Yes.
And she wants a cage, and Borat, of course, jokes with the owner and goes, "The teenage girls, you've got to make them happy." And you can see Sacha Baron Cohen when he says that he repeats it "Oh yes, he said exactly what I want him to say." That was great comedy, and throughout the movie, of course, Borat gets closer to his daughter, and his daughter learns that Borat was lying to him, and so I have got something to say on this, Michael, on this storyline. A bit of a critique, but But do you want to say anything on this storyline with his daughter first?
I guess maybe it feels a little bit, what's the word, not really in keeping with how Borat is previously, and kind of I don't really view him as, when you look at how Borat's family is portrayed in previous films, you can't really imagine it being the type of thing that you try to have a happy, not touchy-feely, I don't know what word I'm looking for, but a feel-good kind of story beat about. But yeah, I mean, I don't have any strong opinions about it, so I'm interested to hear what you have to think.
Well, here's my issue with the storyline, Michael, because it's about what is this storyline actually? Think about it. What is this storyline with his daughter actually satirizing?
I assume it's satirizing kind of the hands off my daughter American culture thing.
Well, it doesn't really do that, does it?
No, yeah.
Because a lot of the time, people are saying to his daughter, "Oh, this is America. You can be free here."
Yeah.
So what is it actually satirizing?
Oh yeah, I guess it's satirizing kind of the notion of Western women's rights.
I think what it's satirizing is.
Sorry. Let me clarify. Sorry, more directly. I mean, maybe I'm just being wrong in a different phrasing, but the perception of the foreign world is a place where women have no rights.
Yeah, I think what it's actually satirizing is what these Americans perhaps think of, Kazakhstan or whatever. And the thing is it even satire? Because it's just a lot of this woman believes if you masturbate, your hand gets chopped off, and because she comes from a backward country, and the Americans just go a lot of the time no, that isn't the case. Borat believes that this is when a woman gives birth to a boy, it runs, a girl doesn't run, it sits down, or it can't run or walk, I guess. And then the Americans just go, well, no, it doesn't. That's a lie.
Yeah, so you're saying the joke is just that Borat is wrong.
Yeah, that's the joke, that Borat is wrong. And and it's that's the thing. Basically, her daughter, his daughter, has been brought up to believe women are repressed, but she gets her eyes opened by America. That's the thing. This is. It's not that good satire, because America still has a lot of sexist problems outlined by women saying that girls that should be meek, which like it's kind of you talked about last time, like the politics was a bit all over the place. This is a bit all over the place in it.
Yeah.
Like how it deals with sex and
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's making fun of like how the old Soviet Union, because there's no scene where like Borat is talking to like an American.
And an American really exposes themselves as like sexist in this way.
That we wish our girls lived in cages like that. There isn't like that. They just say, no, that's not how it is. That's
take
wrong.
them out and hang them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can like when she's so amazed that a woman can own a business in America. That's it.
America is a wonderful, beautiful place.
Yeah, it's like look at how great America is. You can be free for a girl. You can own a business, not like these old Soviet countries.
Half those business owners should be women.
Yeah, exactly. Not like these old Soviet countries where like your women are kept in cages. And of course, the irony is like the old Soviet Union had better equality a lot of the time compared to the United States for
that's
women.
true, yeah.
And of course, Kazakhstan was part of the Soviet Union. And Borat is presented as backwards to try and trick Americans and for humor. But these scenes with his daughter, a lot of the time they are just with Borat, so there is no point in portraying like Kazakh people as backwards. That is just the point. They're backwards. Isn't that funny? And even the scenes with the daughter and other people, sometimes, like I said, the point isn't to prove that Americans are just as backwards or just as sexist as Kazakhstani people, trying to expose them. It's just to make like, oh look, no, this is what we think of women. Oh no, and the Americans go, no, that's a lie, that's not true. You can own a business over here in America if you're a woman. And it's like, well, what is the point of the satire? Which is why earlier on I asked you the question because I was trying to work it out myself, and I guess my conclusion is just like there isn't, and it's just not. It's not really satirizing anything really. I guess. I mean, I said before. Sorry, go on. Do you want to say something?
Well, I was just going to say it's kind of getting to a problem I had. So one of the issues that I think you can have is you have to wonder to what extent sometimes it's just people awkwardly reacting to the crazy things Borat says. And I think that's kind of a thing that happens a lot in, to be honest, both films. I think it's one of the reasons why the guy saying, we're trying to get it so you take them out and hang them about gay people in the first film is so good, because it's like, it's not just him reacting to the weird things Borat's saying. It's like him like really enthusiastically giving this take. Whereas in this film, there's a lot more moments where it's kind of like, Borat says something maybe offensive. Like I always feel that way about like when he talks about like, how do you kill the gypsies or how do you kill the Jews, and like people just kind of go like, oh, whatever. Or when he says to the woman like, what would you recommend for a racist family, and she just says, oh, I wouldn't go any higher than this. It's kind of like, well, how are you supposed to react when somebody says something weird like that? You're going to turn around and go, well, I would recommend that you educate them on how racism is wrong. No, you're just going to like respond like, okay, it's a weird question, but here you go.
No, I don't think you would respond like that. No,
I would respond. To be honest, I would respond like,
you're exposing yourself then, just like you did last week.
Yeah, exactly.
If someone asked me that question, I'd be like, well, what the hell do you mean racist family? What are you talking about?
I don't know. Well, I don't know. I think what you got to realize is that most people just don't want to have a conversation. Like that's my attitude. Like usually, I would say there's a strong tendency to not really want to have a conversation.
That's just you because you're weird.
Yeah, so I'd just be like, let me just give you the answer which I think you want.
Yeah.
Someone walked up to me and said, what would you recommend for a racist black family? I'd say, well, in that case, I'd probably make sure you don't go too low in the skin color spectrum.
Again, you're thinking that your weirdness is like everybody else. Everybody else just doesn't want to talk to other people.
That's how I think it should be personally. Okay. Anyway,
but and just get back to the scenes with his daughter. Like the scenes with the babysitter, I think show it quite well. Like this father-daughter relationship is at first presented absurdly to make the babysitter feel uncomfortable, and you could say the book was funny, but example in the car, it's just the daughter being amazed by the fact that a woman can drive, and she gives the speech that tells her to look after yourself, and you don't need big titties, and it's like, well, what is this, like, what is the joke here? Like, it's just you're trying to make people uncomfortable, but like it's, you don't really get any good humor out of it, or you don't get any of the other. Of course, the black woman wasn't going to agree with what Borat's daughter was, of course, saying, but even like the Americans, when Borat, who the QAnon Americans, when Borat shows them that booklet about what happens, like then they're saying, oh, it's a lie, it's a conspiracy. They're not going, oh, maybe that is how it is. Yeah, no, I don't know about it. It's just like there's just no point, and there's a lot of that in the movie, of course, and that's why I just had an issue with it, because it's just like quite shit. It's not.
Yeah, it's quite a central thing.
Yeah, exactly. It is quite a central thing. Like the best part of all that was when Borat's daughter said when she was in the car with the babysitter. She said the line about, her dad being the smartest in this whole flat world, I think. And it was it was good delivery. I was like, yeah, that's good. But then she's going to this Republican women's meeting, and they're telling her that, women basically are empowered compared to where she comes from, and women can drive, and men lie to women, etc. And yeah, it's just like, well, what is the joke? What is the point of the joke? Who are you making fun of here? Especially, it's just like, oh, you're making fun of what basically these, this creation of Borat and of Sacha Baron Cohen and these and what his daughter is supposed to think about what women do in the world, which is of course not accurate if you're from Kazakhstan, and so it's just like, well, it's just and you don't get any good humor out of the Republican women there either. It's just like, well, yeah, it just feels utterly like pointless. And again, like we said, it is quite central. But I did enjoy the scene with the babysitter at the end when Borat asks her, "Will you be my new black wife?" Which was again those stupid moments like that. They're the best parts, because of course it refers back to the first movie when
he has the hooker.
He has the hooker. So yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, it's just basically all of that stuff. It's just like, it just falls flat for me. And I think a lot of it.
So I was just going to say, it seems a bit more like it only really works in like an absurdist way, more so than like a political satire way. You'd be like, oh, isn't it absurd that there's all these crazy things that are believed about women? Isn't it absurd that, I mean, I know you said this was a positive example, but I think it's still so, like, isn't it absurd that she thinks that the world is flat, Isn't it absurd that she thinks that her hands will fall off if she masturbates? Like, it's like, I agree with you, it doesn't really function as satire, so I guess, in the sense, I mean,
it could be, like I said, if it gets a reaction out of somebody, that is funny.
Yeah.
But most of the time, they just, like, that babysitter just tells her, like, no, women can touch themselves. This is a lie. Like, it's just not funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I had to say on Borat's daughter, and a lot of scenes with that. Again, just wasn't doing it for me, but well, there's a lot actually that goes on between now and the end of the movie, but we're going to talk about that, of course, in the later sections. So let's just talk about the conclusion to the plot, because of course, they go to Rudy Giuliani. Rudy Giuliani rejects his daughter and Borat, or Borat saves his daughter from Rudy Giuliani, and we get back to Kazakhstan, and we find out that Borat was actually sent around the world by Kazakhstan as revenge for the first movie and the fact that everyone laughed at Kazakhstan. And to spread coronavirus. They have the scene with Tom Hanks in Australia, which of course is where he got COVID, one of the first famous people to get COVID. And yeah, COVID is basically Kazakhstan's revenge on the world. I do like that as well. It does make sense, although I was like, well, if that was the premise, then surely the premier would tell Borat to go to multiple countries, and not just like spend all his time in like Houston. There's a better way to spread disease than that. But to be fair, they do show, of course, at the start he goes to every, different city around the world.
Port,
Yeah, again, but it's just like, it feels like you just spent like 30 seconds on that, and this is the whole.
It's the whole big reveal. It's a bit like, like with what do they say with like twists? Like if twist, it's like you can go back through the film and be like, oh wow, I can't believe all this stuff that was building up to this twist. In this film, it's literally like there's a 30-second sequence, and it's like that's the basis.
I mean, who cares at the end of the day? It's a fucking stupid comedy movie.
Oh yeah.
But it's like, again, they could have made
this isn't Fight Club.
Yeah, they could have put a bit more effort into that. Again, I'm criticizing their effort, even though the first one had minimal effort. But it's because they tried. So therefore, you have to evaluate them actually trying.
Yeah.
They of course get back to Kazakhstan. It's reformed. They have replaced the running of the Jew with the running of the American. And Borat and their country is not the same. It's a nice happy ending that they're woke now, Michael, aren't they?
No, yeah, they are. And I think that ultimately the world is better off for it. I mean, and you do get, of course, a little bit more reincorporation with the whole guy who, like the technology thing where they record the guy talking, which to be honest is like sort of unnecessary, because it's like you can record people anyway, but it's fine. They reincorporated it. Isn't that great? And that was your favorite scene, so I bet you really enjoyed that. And as for, I mean, the big change, I mean, it's reflective of the change at the end of the first one. There's like, we are a new country now, but now they're a new country. But yeah, they are woke, and I think that ultimately, if only Borat came from Afghanistan, maybe we wouldn't be having the problems that we've got right now.
Indeed, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that conversation is done with, and we are now going to get on to the second category of this, I guess, of this going through this movie, which is Borat's exposing Americans, which is again a bit different to Borat's political or stance, I guess, or the stance that this movie has. So, of course, this was a category last time out, Michael. Exposing Americans, and it was kind of done in like, look at how dumb these Americans are, look at how racist they actually are, and there is kind of a double downing on that in this movie. It's like kind of even more of that, and right away, in the first like 20 minutes when he high fives the cage owner, he says, Donald Trump also keeps Mexican kids in cages. High five. Yeah, again, like that's the thing. You watch Borat enough, like I have. Like the high five is always Sacha Baron Cohen's signature. I can't believe I'm getting them to say this. This is great.
Yeah.
I'm getting them to say this out loud. That's his signature move. Yeah, and of course, you've also got what colour of hair is best for a racist family.
Yes.
Where is the no means yes section? Which people just laugh at. But yeah, there are some specific interviews that I'd like to go over. And the first one is when Tutar, his daughter, goes to see one of America's leading feminists, who tells her you have to be weak and submissive. Now, again, this goes kind of back to the point I was making previously. This should have been, I guess, central to
the overall kind of like point.
Yeah, the overall kind of point, because like I said, if you just have a situation where the joke is look how ridiculous that Sacha Baron Cohen has created these things about Kazakhstan, how they treat women, which isn't true, then of course the contrast is that America looks like a leading light for feminism and looks like a completely unsexist country, and I don't know if that's like good satire at all.
No, yeah.
Really, is it? Like that's the exact opposite, that you think you want to satirize America by showing how unfeminist it is, I guess, and this is how you do it. You interview this sugar babe who tells Tutar to be weak and submissive, and I think it would be good in the plot if Tutar was like inspired by other feminists in America and then came to like this house. I was like, no, this is how you have to act.
Yeah. Oh, that would be, yeah. Like this is she got totally red pilled.
Yeah, if you have this later on in the movie, like when Borat's trying to convince her to meet with Rudy Giuliani, like Borat goes to this woman, and this woman then talks to her, and it's like, okay, so America is still quite anti-feminist, anti-women, and so basically by this woman being as backwards as Borat and other people who as backwards as supposedly people in Kazakhstan are, that enables the plot to move forward instead of moving forward by Tutar, his daughter, understanding how incredible it is to be. Yeah, how incredible it is to be a woman in America. So that would be better for me. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think that would actually be definitely when that scene happens. You do feel like it just feels almost like more of a satire, or not even like a satire really, just like a personal, not really like a personal attack, but like a personal send or lampooning of this particular woman in a way. Like this, by which I mean obviously the Instagram model or whatever, who's the sugar baby as well, where it's like, this is what she thinks that life should be like, blah, blah, blah. But that's not really kind of contextualized within wider problems with American society, and indeed the rest of the film's text.
It stands out, doesn't
goes
it?
Against that.
Yeah, there's nothing else really like that in terms of talking about feminism. I mean, you guess you can say, well, the plastic surgery.
Yeah, that's like
the one.
That.
Or the women's health. Let's talk about the women's health centre first.
Yes.
And the pastor who is kind of fine with incest. Look at that face. I give it to her. Would you not give it to her? These just great stuff. And of course, with the context of it's like a cupcake with a baby on it.
Yeah.
It's beautifully set up. Well done. Again, it's not really anti-feminist as much as it is just how fucking crazy. I mean, of course, it is anti-feminist to a point, but it's just like how crazy these pastors are. Like even into like a father impregnating his daughter. It's just like no, we need to still keep the baby. Yeah. Again, exposing how radically crazy these abortionists or these anti-abortionists, are, Michael.
No, yeah. I think that's the thing. Like the kind of like the misunderstanding aspect of it does just turn it into almost like a bit of a sort of a bit silly as a comedy. So it's kind of like you're not really expecting there to be this sort of wider point being made. And obviously, when it does get made, I mean, I guess, obviously, and this isn't an excuse I'm making. I promise, Luke. I'm like, usually when I make excuses for these people, like, how do you even react to a situation like that? Because he basically, like, he can't really turn around and be like, okay, in that case, we should probably have an abortion, because then he just, would look like his whole, I guess, like, worldview, or the whole, like, reason for his organization wouldn't really have any validity. So, like, you almost can't really blame him when he's put in that situation. But it just shows. Well, I guess what I'm showing you can't. When I say you can't blame him, I guess what I mean is that's the situation that he has to be put in order to be consistent based on his ideological beliefs, which is why his ideological beliefs are wrong. There we go.
Yes, exactly, which is why his ideological beliefs are wrong. That's the key thing. Again, there's some good exposing. When of course, this is quite a good scene, when Borat and his daughter go to the debutante ball.
Yes.
And again, I said before that scene with the woman stands out. Now I'm thinking about this. With the sugar babe stands out. I'm thinking about this. So it's like, this actually is kind of like showing how backwards America is in terms of how it treats women, because. Of course, that's well. When what does the guy say? That's what we love in the South. Pretty girls.
Yeah,
they are fun.
Yeah.
Again, yeah, and of course when Borat asks the old guy, "How much do you think my daughter is worth?" and then I think his daughter goes, "That is fucking gross." That was some great. Again,
I guess it does show how they really do need to learn their place. So they feel they can still speak out like that.
Yeah, and that is a very good scene. That is quite a funny, funny scene.
It's pretty cringy. Again, the dance. I will say that stuck out to me as like a really cringy moment.
Yeah, no, it was cringy. Again, it doesn't really advance the plot that much.
Yeah.
It doesn't really do much, but yeah, it's still quite good. And then of course the plastic surgeon. When Tito asks, "Would you make sexy time with me?" and then the guy goes, "If your father was not here."
Yeah.
Like,
that's very respectful.
Yeah, no, I mean, of course, it's so respectful. How that guy can't be employed after that, surely. You can't, like...
Yeah.
I just... How could you even go back into your job after that? And of course, he has the anti-Semitic comments, which we'll talk about next. But yeah, that is some great exposing. And again, just this random plastic surgeon. I don't know how Borat and his daughter found... Yeah. Or how Sacha Baron Cohen found this. There's just a plastic surgeon being anti-Semitic and just being very inappropriate. But yeah, the credit to him finding this, again, plastic surgeon.
Maybe they went to loads of plastic surgeons.
Yeah, no, indeed. But anyway, so anti-Semitism is next, Michael. And we're going to be talking about Borat's exposing anti-Semitism in America. Of course, when I mentioned with the plastic surgeon, no, ma'am, you do not look like a Jew. A Jew's nose looks like this.
Yeah, what every girl wants to hear.
Yeah, exactly. and he actually does the thing with his fingers as well.
Yeah,
that was crazy. But yeah, the anti-Semitism storyline, I guess, if you want to call it that, or just like section, it was bigger than the first movie. The thing is, his daughter mentions the Holocaust to him and how it was a lie because she saw a group on Facebook that said so.
Yeah.
Even though Facebook hadn't been brought up to that point in the movie. So Sacha Baron Cohen really wanted an anti-Semitism, like I said, storyline in this movie. And then there's pretty clear, like, instead of just going around saying...
Jews will not replace us.
Yeah, exactly. Writing Jews will not replace us on the cake. Got to mention that. And in the first movie, he was like, make my day, Jew. And that was it. There wasn't really a big focus. But in this movie, there is a big focus because, of course, he goes to meet a Holocaust survivor. But firstly, I don't know what the movie is saying when they're talking about the Holocaust in relation to Kazakhstan, because his daughter tells him, the Holocaust, their country's greatest accomplishment, is a lie. Now, of course, Kazakhs didn't do the Holocaust, and that's the Nazis, unless Borat thinks that the Kazakhs did do the Holocaust, which would be a crazy thing to think, which is the craziest conspiracy theory ever. So therefore, when you talk about the greatest accomplishment, is he and Kazakh people, are they talking, or theoretically Kazakh people, in this caricature of Kazakhs, are they talking about liberating the camps, which the Soviet Union did, of course? And I think that was mentioned earlier, and, it would be a great accomplishment, obviously. Of course, Kazakhstan is part of the Soviet Union. However, Borat, of course, loves that the Holocaust actually happened. He calls it a fairy tale. And so
it's beautiful.
Yeah, well, calm down, Michael.
No, sorry, I was just saying his attitude towards it. I think the Holocaust itself was bad, but I think that people getting pleasure from anything is always beautiful.
Okay, and so if the Soviet Union liberated the camps, why would it be a great accomplishment? Surely it'd be the opposite of a great accomplishment. So I don't know what this movie is saying in terms of Kazakhstan's, the caricature of Kazakhstan.
Well,
basically.
I mean, my assumption was it was just like it was kind of like another one of those Kazakhstan is disconnected from reality jokes, where it's like
the joke doesn't make sense.
They think that Kazakhstan did do the Holocaust.
So they think Kazakhstan did do the Holocaust.
So like as
not
if
the Nazis. There was Kazakhstan thousands of miles away, even though the gas chambers, of course, were in Poland. And Germany,
well, I mean, you've got to bear in mind that the problem is like this is also a thing where we're supposed to believe that Kazakhstanis believe the world is flat. So it's not.
No, but that is more believable because like it's not
that
in
is
your
more believable.
It's more believable for the Kazakhs to believe that because it's like not in their country. Like, surely in talking about the Holocaust, there must be mentions of who did it. So this is the thing. Like, if you're saying if that is the case, then that's stupid. Like, and the movie never actually says that the Kazakhs did the Holocaust, and therefore, if you're saying it's your country's greatest accomplishment, then that doesn't make sense unless you're talking about liberating the camps, of course.
But that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense because then why would Kazakh people think it's the greatest accomplishment if they like the Holocaust? So yeah, it just that whole bit just doesn't make sense. And again, it's a pretty when anti-Semitism and it's quite a big section in this movie. You got to get your stories better than that. Anyway, so of course
he goes into the synagogue.
Borat. This is one of the best scenes in the movie. I mean, some people said, "Oh, this is an awful scene. He's going too far," but I don't know. I just loved it when he goes into the synagogue dressed like a typical Jew, which is of course a caricature of the worst anti-Semitic tropes, which was, like I said, I think hilarious.
Devil.
Yeah, you got the money bags, the nose. I like the bat wings at the back. That's good, and the puppet. And he, what was his line when he enters the synagogue? Is very nice weather we have been controlling.
Yes.
That's a great line.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he talks to a Holocaust survivor, who ensures him the Holocaust is real. So yeah, that's pretty good. I think setup and payoff with that. Like, and the thing is, they cut
away. Of course, Jews would know all about paying off.
Oh, see, Michael, come on. You can't do that, even though you are technically Jewish somewhat. Yeah. So maybe you can do that, but
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I thought it would be if Borat can walk into a synagogue dressed up as a devil, saying that Jews control the weather, then anything goes. Those are the rules.
I guess so.
That's my excuse.
And then, and of course, then the thing is, she tells him the Holocaust is real, and then they cut away when she tells him that because he can't smile for too long, he can't celebrate. Otherwise, that would just be awful, in the context. So that's why they cut, which is very weird, of course, if you watch like two movies back to back, like we have done. And also, Borat just accepts she is telling the truth. Normally, he would be like, "How can I make sure you are not lying to me, Jew?" Because, of course, that's the familiar theme with Borat that he thinks Jews lie to him. And so, basically, he couldn't go full Borat because of who she was.
Yeah, because it would be too offensive.
Yeah, it'd be too offensive, exactly. And the thing is, Michael, looking at what happened after the movie, it's quite interesting. The film's creators were sued for fraud after including an interview with the Holocaust survivor, Judith Evans. Evans died before the film's release, but her heirs alleged that she did not consent to the commercial use of her likeness in the film. So, that's interesting. But by the way, it didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
The lawsuit was dismissed.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but I know that within it's another moment where you think to yourself, you could make an anti-Semitic joke about that, but obviously it should be pointed out that everybody was trying to make money off of these Borat films. It wasn't just the Jews.
It wasn't just the Jews. That's pretty crucial. Baron Cohen, who dedicated the film to her memory, claimed that he broke character to reveal to Evans that the piece was a bit to reduce her concern about the anti-Semitic comments that Borat makes. Okay, so that's the one time he. Because again, I was thinking when I was watching this, like, that's a Holocaust survivor, and we know, of course, how Sacha Baron Cohen feels about this because he is Jewish. He's very much he gave speeches at the ADL, which of course we'll talk about in a bit. He's like the last thing I think he'd want to do is like offend her, and so it makes sense very much that he broke character, and he didn't react like he normally would. But again, like that is the thing. I don't think because this is the thing he is compromising like his, I guess, artistic integrity by doing that. But the thing is, he has to do that because he wanted to include this anti-Semitic storyline in this movie. And therefore, you can't say to a Holocaust survivor, "Haha, yes, I love that is real or that is great." You need to tone it down, unfortunately. So that's I think it was a good scene regardless of that.
Yeah, I mean it was kind of like it had some heart, but football in the groin had football in the groin.
Okay. Well, we're getting Simpsons reference now, so we know you're tapped out.
The thing is, it was like it felt like obviously like in the original work you didn't have those kind of like moments where it was supposed to be kind of obviously like sweet seems like a weird word because it's literally like the revelation that the Holocaust happened, but kind of like the sincerity with which it's handled and kind of like the way it is kind of obvious that they are toning it back or toning it down rather. And he wanted to include this in. He feels very strongly, of course, about anti-Semitism, which is a nice segue into politics and Trump stuff, because here's the thing: in the 2 years leading up to the release, Sacha Baron Cohen became more concerned and about being politically active, giving speeches and interviews in person to combat racism. He insisted on releasing the film immediately before the 2020 presidential election to provoke alarm among Americans about a slide into a liberal democracy. And of course I mentioned, the speech. He did an ADL speech. I saw that when he actually did it in the day it happened in real life, and of course, watching the Lindsay Ellis video, you can see parts of it. And I remember he absolutely savages Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook for allowing anti-Semitic groups to prosper, like the ones that say the Holocaust didn't exist. Again, it's always very weird. I mean, we've talked about this. It's very weird for people who are anti-Semitic to say the Holocaust didn't exist. It should act like Borat, which is like, no, I want it to exist. It's great. But anyway, it's just because they like to complain.
Yeah, I like to complain. But again, this is... and of course, I saw an interview with him where he was like, after Trump won, I got very angry. And basically, this is the section which we're going to talk about, like,
He hates Trump.
Well, he hates Trump. And, of course, the first Borat was political in a way, like exposing the... a liberal nature of America, I guess. The racist, the sexist, the homophobic things that some people in America think, and that was like shocking, really. But of course, this one takes it an extra step as it's trying to convince you to vote in an election. Something that the first Borat was never close to doing, if you think about it back then. And I'm going to mention the Lindsay Ellis video again, because she says, like, Borat acted like he was above it all, like most people in the mid-2000s did. This comedy doesn't have to have a purpose. And I'm like, well, that's not really a criticism of it, because it was just like, let's just like, he still does in some way, because he mocks George Bush, in that speech. But like this, I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily, but this, I think, comedy doesn't have to have like a purpose. It's all about how funny something is. But like you actually said, Michael, the politics wasn't great in the first one. Now it's focused. You can't say that about this now. You know what Sacha Baron Cohen's going for.
No, I mean, well, definitely this film has like a much clearer, more undeniable message when it comes to its politics. Obviously, that doesn't necessarily make it better. It just means that you can't really criticize this film for having an unclear politics. I think there are other ways in which this film is kind of unclear, which we already touched on, with particularly like the feminism narrative. But when it comes to the politics, it's obvious Sacha Baron Cohen doesn't like Donald Trump. And I think I can kind of see the idea of like thinking you're above it in the original film, because you do get the sense of like, it's almost like kind of South Parky in the sense of like just making fun of just society itself. Whereas I suppose in this...
Lindsay Ellis literally... you said you haven't seen the video,
I haven't seen it, no, I haven't seen it.
That's what she literally compares it to South Park and say Trey Parker and Matt Stone spent the 2000s basically making fun of everyone who wanted change, which is what we talked about in the South Park movie. And basically they were the angrier at Democrats compared to Republicans, because Democrats wanted to change things more than Republicans. That was basically why they're... Republicans.
I can see that. But I think in this case, it is true that in some sense it becomes a little less about like making fun of American society in general, because I feel like it's in the second film, because it seems like it's pointing almost with more of a laser focus at Donald Trump and his supporters. And I think you kind of like almost a lot of the things in the film, not all of them, but a lot of them can always be recontextualized within that sense. Like, for example, the fact that he befriends the QAnon supporters, it's almost like they're kind of presented as like victims of Donald Trump's nonsense in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, he walks into CPAC with a KKK outfit, dresses up as Trump to try and deliver his daughter to Mike Pence.
Yes.
I like that they have footage of Pence talking about the COVID situation.
Yeah.
Obviously, it aged badly. That's good. And of course, Borat trying to give his daughter to another one of Trump's close confidants, and all of them are in jail because he's so corrupt. That was, again, it's very very, very pointed. It's very like, this is what we're going for, just compared to the last movie. And of course, he rooms with Trump supporters because of the COVID pandemic and what is more dangerous, the virus or the Democrats. And they discuss, Hillary Clinton drinking the blood of children, and Democrats should have less rights than us, and the singing on stage, saying, COVID is a liberal hoax, inject Fauci and Obama with the Wuhan flu. And what was the other good line, Michael, about Saudis?
What are we going to do with the journalists? Chop them up like the Saudis do.
Chop them up like the Saudis do. Yeah. And that's the thing. All of this is like very clear. Like it's very clear what he wants to do. He wants to expose these people. He wants to expose Trumpism. And I think we'll talk about Rudy Giuliani next. But I just want to say, with all of this, even with the exposing like earlier on, which isn't specifically political, and just exposing like American society, it is a case of we have seen it before.
Yeah.
And especially we're like, oh wow, you've got some QAnon guys talking about how Democrats drink the blood of, children. It's like
boring.
That's what you can go onto the Daily Beast, or I just pick them at random. Any Washington based news fucking publisher thing, whatever they are.
Yeah.
Thanks for helping me out there, Michael.
Sorry, a news website.
Yeah, news website.
Publication.
Yeah. And you can find articles on QAnon. There was a big focus on QAnon before the election, so it's just like, well, yeah, some people think this, and it's just, it kind of goes over your head. It isn't that impactful. That is a problem, but exposing Rudy Giuliani, Michael, that is not a problem. That was good. It's just Giuliani is just so cringe, with him and Borat's daughter. Like, you can tell that's a guy who married his cousin. Like, absolutely. And
yes.
It's just the most awkward thing ever. But obviously the most famous bit from the movie probably, America's former mayor being reduced to have, this iconic shot of him reaching down into his pants, lying on the bed. And that photo went viral. Oh God, that was such a great photo when it came out.
No, I do remember it.
Yeah, what was it? It was probably one of my favourite scenes just because of how ridiculous and absurd it was. Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you that, Rudy Giuliani gives off creepy, like everyone talks about Joe Biden, but Rudy Giuliani gives off creepy grandpa vibes.
Joe is no way as creepy as this.
No, yeah.
Yeah, Biden doesn't have a sinister edge. Like, Giuliani has a sinister edge.
Yeah, Biden, he's got an innocence to him, bless him.
Yeah, Biden, when he's sniffing the hair, he's just like, oh, sorry, man, I just forgot, He's just like,
it's not acceptable to do that,
Yeah, he doesn't want to, be malicious with it, you get the sense, while Giuliani absolutely does.
Yeah, he's like a predator.
Yeah, he is like a predator.
Super predator.
Super predator, yes. So Giuliani was criticised, this is from Wikipedia, criticised for his actions in the scene, in which he puts his hand into his trousers in front of actress Maria Bakalova, who was impersonating a journalist. Following an interview in a hotel room, the pair retreat to the bedroom, where Giuliani's voice is heard, asking for an address and a phone number. After Bakalova removes his microphone, thus untucking his shirt, Giuliani lies back in the bed and places his hands on his pants. And of course, Baron Cohen then bursts into the room exclaiming, "She's 15, she's too old for you." Giuliani denied allegations of impropriety, claiming the allegations were a smear for Giuliani's Hunter Biden email controversy, despite the scene having been filmed months before the controversy occurred. Controversy over what happened in the scene led to Baron Cohen to record a brief clip as Borat regarding Giuliani. Basically, he was very clearly trying to mock him, and while on the campaign trail, Donald Trump called Baron Cohen unfunny and a creep, which I love. He's a creep, folks. He's so unfunny. He's a creep. Baron Cohen subsequently thanked him for the free publicity, saying he did not find President Trump funny either, which I disagree with. I think President Trump is
Trump's very funny.
Yeah, so
I mean,
again,
we looked at his tweets one time, and we saw that he was,
this
a
is the
real
problem
comedian.
with the new activist Baron Cohen, who's like, Trump's not actually funny. No, he is funny. Like, you know, you can say he's a bit dangerous, of course, what he's saying, but he is definitely funny. He is a funny guy. That is like how can you not look at the guy and just read his tweets and not think he's funny? Yeah, the old Sacha Baron Cohen wouldn't say that. Anyway, the debate followed Giuliani and subsequent media appearances. And so, yeah, basically, Baron Cohen continued the feud by mocking Giuliani's 4 Seasons Total Landscaping press conference. Do you remember that, Michael? The 4 Seasons Total Landscaping press conference?
I feel like I vaguely remember it, but tell me about it.
Well, it was just like he went to this landscaping company and had a press conference outside there.
Yeah, I remember
for no
that.
reason. Yeah, again, Giuliani just had a. That's the thing. He was a bit of a side character, you know, in 2020, but like of course, with the election stuff being stolen afterwards, like he had one hell of a year and was exposed thoroughly. And this movie was a massive contribution for that, for sure. But I just want to end on Michael talking about, you know, what Sacha Baron Cohen was doing with this movie, or why it was created in the first place. Of course, was, you know, to convince people to vote for or vote against Trump and for Joe Biden, even though Biden is never mentioned. And you have comedy. This is comedy, like, of course, with a message, you know, comedy with a purpose, activist comedy, if you will, which again, like I said, is different from the first Borat. You know, releasing it right before the 2020 election in November, of course, there's a very good reason why he was doing that. And yeah, it is different to trying to make fun of people in power. You know, it's specifically trying to expose one side of the political spectrum. You know, it's trying to get you on one side and, you know, not go to the other. And yeah, that even at the end it says now vote. And of course, he doesn't say vote for who, but it's like obviously vote for Joe Biden. That's who Sacha Baron Cohen wants you to vote for. So yeah, it's that's the thing. It's not. The thing is, the funniest stuff in the first movie. That's the thing. That's what he's trying to do, and you can do that. That's fine. I don't think that makes the movie better. Like that was the point of what Lindsay Ellis was saying in her video. It's like now Borat has a purpose. That makes it better than the 2006 one, because of course her whole argument was 2020 subsequent Moviefilm is better, and I think the major reason she cited was because it has a purpose now. It knows what its target is, and that doesn't make it better in terms of in a comedic perspective, because it's all about how funny a movie is, and I really think that it's all that stuff is that funny, apart from the Giuliani bit. That one's gold, just because of how ridiculous Giuliani is. But like, you know, bursting into CPAC with a KKK outfit, you know, and just trying to deliver his daughter to Mike Pence. It's just not that funny. And you know, the funniest stuff in the first movie was not even the exposing of the first movie. The funniest stuff was Borat saying ridiculous things like, you know, with the chicken, do you want to shove the fist of my anus as well? Talking to the Homer salesman about killing gypsies, like all of that stuff to me is the funniest, and that's just him being ridiculous and saying really funny lines. That's what made me laugh the most. And Lindsay Ellis in her video said, you know, the sequel to Borat was better in every conceivable metric, you know, and talks about the comedy being a target, but she didn't say about how the fact that the sequel was funny. Like she didn't mention. I was thinking, well, how about being funny? That's a metric. That's a very important metric for a comedy movie. And yeah, so it's something that she didn't really concern herself with, even though that should
Are you
be
saying
the main...
that women aren't funny?
No, Maria Bakalova's funny in this movie.
Yeah, that's true.
At times. No, but that's the thing. The main point of a comedy movie should be it's funny.
Yeah.
And so that's basically, if you haven't noticed throughout the movie, I've been referencing her video, and I've mostly been disagreeing with it, because I do disagree with it. I do disagree that Borat works better in 2020 than 2006, because 2006 the original works more for the reasons that we said. It's like, it's hard to, it relies on the fact that, I can't believe this is happening. Well, obviously the sequel, you can believe it's happening, so naturally the sequel would have a disadvantage. And also, it's just funnier. So, and that, regardless of political context, that matters a lot, in my opinion, in terms of a comedy movie. So yeah, that's what I have to say on that, Michael. That's what I have to say on that.
I mean, I think that I'll just say that comedy that's like more serious is automatically less funny in a way. And like when you like really want to make a point, like obviously you can make a point in a funny way, but like when it's like a very, I think a lot of the time when your comedy gets almost like more specific, a lot of the time it becomes harder for it to actually like make a kind of interesting point, because it's sort of like if you're making a generalized criticism of society, there's usually like lots of interesting takes you can have on that. But if your criticism is like specifically on, I don't know, like Donald Trump's attitude and, you know, his cohort's attitude towards women, there's only so many ways you can make a joke out of that, and eventually it starts to come across as sort of obvious and predictable. I think
predictable is a good word for it. Yeah,
there's like, I guess it's like freedom in the original film, because it's like it's just like making jokes about everything. Like he didn't know when he went to that rodeo that guy was going to say they want to hang gay people, and that's what makes it funny.
And the thing is, you have the cartoon with Donald Trump grabbing Melania by the pussy. Again, it's just like, well, I guess it's kind of funny to see him like it's in a Cinderella parody, him doing that. But it's like, well, how many jokes have there been about Trump grabbing people by the pussy? Like, how many times have you heard that, man? Like, it's just like, that's the thing. If you go down this, like, again, activist comedy path that Sacha Baron Cohen went down, then automatically, you know, that's the thing. There's so many jokes about, like, when he talks to Rudy Giuliani and says, why didn't you do a golden shower? Like, that's what Trump did in the hotel. It's like the same, like, late night jokes or late night TV host jokes that, for example, you know, Stephen Colbert and what was the other one, Seth Meyers, and a couple of others, like, have repeated over the past, like, you know, 4 years, or from, you know, 2016 to 2020, you know, about Trump. And it's just like, it's just, yeah, you're trying to make fun of him, and it's just like, well, you know, it's not even, it has to be quite predictable. I don't know how you could make it even, how can you make it funny? Because it's just like, well, I've heard like this joke or iterations of this joke before. And therefore, and this kind of leads on to my conclusion, it is not funny. This section of, like, you know, a political comedy that is in this movie trying to expose Trump and the Republicans, that means it can't be funnier than the first one. It just can't be. But again, that's why he wanted to do this movie, I guess. But yeah, like, it's a shame, man. It's a shame he's gone down this path. Well, I mean, it's not a shame, I guess, but it's like it just isn't that good compared to the first one. And that is something that you have to reckon with, even if you do think Trump's an idiot, like I do, of course, and I assume you do as well, Michael.
No, yeah, I do not. We are not fans of Donald Trump on this podcast, but that's the thing. It's kind of like, in a way, having films just like, you're right, is not actually that entertaining. Yeah, it's just incredibly stale. That's what it feels like. But anyway, Michael, I was going to talk about the babysitter, Janice Jones. You know, she basically, well, some people say, you know, it was a bit, she was being tricked for a while, even though she was, you know, one of the good people. She was nice. Yeah, she did get like $100,000 from Baron Cohen, which was donated to her church, and, you know, she raised a lot of money on GoFundMe because she lost her job. Anyway, and Maria Bakalova also kept in touch with Jones as well, which was interesting after the movie was released. So yeah, just to clean up on that. So let's conclude now, Michael. You go first. All right, yeah. So this film was, well, it wasn't as good as the first film. It was not as good as a few of Sacha Baron Cohen's other films. Well, I think Borat's the only other film he's done that was like sorry, not Borat. Bruno's the only other film he's done in terms of like you know, like the same kind of gimmick of like an interview thing, mockumentary thing that's with real people. And that was less funny than the original Borat, but more funny than this, which means this is the worst one. However, it's still like, it's okay. I mean, so the big criticism is kind of what you covered there, and what obviously I mentioned as well, which is that just the comedy isn't really as hard hitting when it's like, it's just so obvious what the message is. It's just like, it just can't be as entertaining, because it's just like, it feels a little more like a lecture at some points. But there are still like funny bits, like the you know, the cringy aspects are still kind of like entertaining, kind of the cringe comedy way. You know, I mean, there's also some shock comedy, like I guess you could say having a woman, you know, be implied to have eaten a monkey alive is pretty shocking. So there are like kind of just like, oh wow, that's crazy. But overall, I think like the majority of the comedy is, well, there's just less of it, I think, than the original film, because of the other things it has to do on top of that. You know, like the interviews and stuff, and the pranks and the setups and stuff are all decently entertaining. You know, they're not really worse than the original film, but there's just a lot of other stuff going on, which means it takes away from what could have been there. But I think inevitably just the fact that you had like Borat was already out there, Borat was going to be recognized, means that this film was kind of operating with one hand behind its back. But you don't. It doesn't matter if a film has an excuse for not being as good. It still means it wasn't as good. I'm still going to say it was a good film. I'm going to give it a middling 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I think that's a good rating. I think the cringe and the prank stuff, aren't as funny as the first one, and the exposing isn't as impactful. Like you say, you can, all the QAnon stuff that the Trump supporters are talking about. You see that shit every day on the internet. So yeah, Borat has kind of been redundant, really, in terms of that. And of course, the political stuff again, like political comedy, just isn't as funny. Since it was an unoriginal thing, trying to make fun of Trump like everyone has tried to do for the past 4 years, and naturally, it just isn't going to be funny either. Whatever political person you're trying to mock, if you target them specifically, then it's just like it just can't be that funny. I don't think. At least for me, and overall, like I said, I do prefer the absurdist stuff. Like the funniest lines in this movie was just like stupid lines that Maria Bakalova or Sacha Baron Cohen said, like, "Will you be my new black wife?" Just like that made me laugh. Just really funny, stupid lines, ridiculous stuff. This movie feels like this is the Borat movie that like Lisa Simpson would like, Michael. If you get what I'm saying. Yeah, it's like, it's not as good as the original, unfortunately. I remember thinking, and I said this last week, how funny every minute of the original Borat was. Like how funny, like it was just packed to the brim, full to the brim, Michael, with just hilarious moments. And of course, in this movie, like we said, it's harder to do that because it's a sequel. Like it's just, it's harder to get people who don't know who Borat is. Like you say, they have one arm tied behind their back, and the fact that you can't believe what's happening in the first one. Well, you can believe what's happening in the second one because it's you've already seen it. So yeah, the sequel is hampered, but yeah, I just don't think the direction that Sacha Baron Cohen went in was a good direction in terms of comedy. But he went in this direction. The whole reason the movie was made is because he became a full-on lib, Michael, as we like to say, a full-on Hollywood lib.
You never go full lib.
Yeah, he's tweeting about how orange Trump is. He doesn't go that far, thankfully, but it gets close sometimes. But yeah, having said that, it isn't. There's still some good moments. Like it isn't a bad movie, like we said. You give it a middling 6, Michael. I'll just give it a 6 out of 10. So yeah, it's like good enough, really. It's good enough to watch, but yeah, not enough, nowhere near as good, as the original, which I of course gave an 8.5. So Michael, what are we going to review next week?
Well, Luke, we'll be celebrating the 20-year anniversary of the release of Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes.
Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes, one of the greatest movies of all time. So thank you for watching. We've been selecting and reflecting on Borat and Borat's subsequent movie film in back-to-back weeks. Are you all Borated out, Michael?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Enough.
Yeah. Too
Time
much.
for another hilarious, hairy character next week in Planet of the Apes. Who have you been, Michael?
I've been Michael.
I've been Luke, and thank you for watching. Very nice.
Very nice.